How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the channel. The patch notes for 1.28 Spain update and Golden Century DLC were just released by Paradox today. I was eager to go through them and see all the upcoming changes, and I was a bit surprised to see some game balance changes that were not mentioned in any dev diaries, so I thought we should discuss it here as well and do a brief overview of the update while we are at it, and see what the other EU4 players think about it. Let's first quickly go over the Golden Century features. We have already discussed them in a previous video, but now we have a game manual for it, so we can look at the pretty pictures and nice fonts while talking about it. Minority colonies first. Now you can send the minority population in your nation to colonize new land. This will cost Diplo points, which will equal the culture conversion value of that province. I think this is an interesting mechanic. This also has some pros and cons. In pros, this will make colonies cheaper to establish, and these colonies also start with a small development bonus. And most importantly, the minorities from these provinces that were used to establish the colonies will be gone from that province. So now that province will be your primary culture and religion, which is pretty huge. There are also some cons in that once the new province is colonized, it will be of the minority religion and culture, and it will be very resistant to conversion. So this will mean more unrest there, and if there are too many such provinces, the colonial nation might switch their religion and culture, leading to negative opinion modifiers and liberty desire. The next feature is the religious orders. So now you can establish religious orders in your states. These orders give some bonuses at the cost of admin, diplo, or military points. Once these orders are assigned to a state, they cannot be changed. They also increase the development of all provinces in that state by 1, which I think is pretty significant. Catholics and Muslims get separate holy orders, although they have mostly the same bonuses, and these orders will only be available to Iberian nations. I won't go into full details here as we have already discussed them in a previous video, but I will leave a link to this game manual in the description in case you want to read through it. Then there are flagships, where you can now build one unique ship with added bonuses and increased upcost. You can actually choose from a list of bonuses, and some of these bonuses look really strong, like the engagement width or extra trade power, depending on if you plan to use your navy more in war or peace. Portugal, Spain, and Netherlands get their own unique bonuses for these flagships, although no bonuses for English Navy, which is strange. There's also naval barrage, which is just artillery barrage but from the sea. And just like artillery barrage, it costs 50 military points and causes a wall breach. The big upside to this mechanic is that you don't have to wait till military tech 7, which is when artillery becomes available. So now you can get those pesky coastal forts more easily early game, especially if you get that flagship bonus for +1 blockade impact on siege. And then there are pirate republics, which has led to some people calling this update Pirates patch rather than Spain patch. Yes, now you can play as a pirate in EU4. There are some triggers for converting to a pirate republic. Some nations can do it at the start via an event, and some nations will emerge later in game. They have 3 factions in the pirate republic, and you can choose which route you want to go. They also have their own separate government reforms. And yes, I have been dreaming of a pirate world conquest as well, even though they get -30 max absolutism. We'll have to wait and see how the game mechanics work around them. And finally, there are mission trees for Castile, Spain, Portugal, Aragon, Morocco, Granada, and Tunis. And you can read all that in more detail in the game manual if you want. I did a similar game manual review for Dharma DLC when it came out. And one thing is very noticeable is that how small this game manual feels compared to the Dharma one. This one is just 17 pages essentially, and like 4 features. It is an immersion pack, so it's not supposed to be full DLC like Dharma, but still, the difference is striking. Now let's go through the 1.28 patch free features and game balances. These are the free changes not tied to the DLC. First are the map changes to Iberia and Maghreb regions. The new missions for Navarra and Berber nations will be free as well, which is great. Same goes for national ideas for Aragon, Asturias, Berber nations, Andalusia, and Texas for some reason. Also, Castile and Spain now have different set of national ideas, which is interesting, and we will look at them and see how they affect gameplay when we play those nations. There are new Brazilian and Mexican cultures, which is a nice flavor change, and a whole host of new event changes for Iberian and Berber nations, and that is nice too. In the game balance changes, there is a change to how trade companies affect the non-Western nations. There was a modifier called Tech Disparity Bonus, which, if I understand it correctly, A country in, say, Africa would get if they neighbor a trade company and if they are lagging in tech, which they would obviously, this bonus was to the goods produced modifier. And now it has been changed to embraced institutions instead of tech. At least I think that's what they mean here. It's one of those partially hidden mechanics that you never know how it works. So if someone has a better understanding, let us know in comments. Then there are some changes to Republican elections, and galleys no longer get -2 penalty to dice rolls when not in inland sea. That is huge. This was actually a hidden modifier, and now I think galley spam are going to be real, especially when playing in Mediterranean and Baltic coasts. Then there are changes to idea groups that we discussed in detail earlier. Let's go over them quickly here as well, as there has been some changes to the proposed changes. Expansion ideas have received a good buff. I don't like innovative ideas as much anymore because now there's no merc maintenance reduction. Instead we get plus 50% innovativeness, which is probably not that useful. Unless you play tall and take innovative ideas first, then you might get some good power cost discounts. Religious has been changed significantly with the missionary maintenance update, and humanist has been nerfed. Maritime has some serious changes too, and the more I look at it, the more I like it. I think they will make for an excellent non-war naval idea group. I'm definitely going to give them a try. I think you will be able to make a lot of money with ships now. Exploration was played around with as well, and you don't get a colonist as the first idea anymore. You also get -25% expel minority cost, which is interesting. Or if you don't buy the Golden Century DLC, then you get plus 5% settler chance. Diplomatic ideas now give you 2 extra diplomats, which is weird. Not sure if that was a typo in the patch notes or if it's real. Influence was nerfed a bit and it doesn't give AE reduction anymore. Instead, it has decreased Liberty Desire, extra Diplo relation, and decreased envoy travel time, which is not very useful. And I wonder if they changed this, but the envoy travel time modifiers do not apply to colonists, which is just wrong. It should apply to diplomats, colonists, and merchants. We will see if that has been fixed in the new patch. Then espionage ideas got a buff with AE reduction, so that will be used more often now. I'm going to give it a try as well. Quantity now has more supply limit, which is very useful, and naval has extra naval tradition, which is also pretty good. And those are the changes to the idea groups. Let's see. Clergy now has -25% missionary cost when happy and -10% when neutral, so that is something to keep in mind. In case you missed it earlier, religious conversion is now based on missionary maintenance and the cost has increased significantly. Cost will depend on the province development and autonomy, so more autonomy means more expensive. So the religious conversion doesn't require you to state the province anymore, but a non-stated province will have higher autonomy, which means increased cost to conversion. The influence admin policy for vassal integration is back, which is great. I really miss the -20% integration cost. Then there are some AI changes, some bug fixes, and some more event changes. One of them says added tortoise hoarding, which I don't know what that is. It doesn't sound like a historical thing. Maybe an Easter egg? What do you guys think? Iberian Wedding now has some limitations in that it won't fire for Castile if they own less than 25 provinces, or for Aragon if they own less than 16 provinces, which is a good change. I would have liked to see more depth to that event, especially since this is Spain update, but that is a good change nonetheless, and a host of minor changes. All that you can read on this patch notes. I will leave a link for that in description as well. And that was all the changes in patch 1.28 Spain update and the Golden Century DLC. You were watching a Radio Res guide. Thanks for your time, and I'll see you all in the next one.